The Apache chief looked the cowboy in the eyes and gave him a choice no man had ever faced. Marry the veiled widow before sunset, or leave this land forever and never return. Every warrior expected the stranger to walk away. But the cowboy accepted without asking a single question. When the widow slowly lifted her veil before the entire tribe, a secret buried for years came to light, and nothing in the village would ever be the same again. The morning sun rose slowly over the rugged hills, casting long shadows across the Apache village. Smoke drifted from the cooking fires as families began another peaceful day. Children laughed while chasing one another between the lodges, and the elders gathered beneath an old cottonwood tree to greet the new day. At the center of the village stood Chief Nantan, a leader respected for his wisdom and fairness. He had guided his people through seasons of hardship and peace, earning the trust of every family. His decisions were never made in anger. He believed that every choice should protect not only the present but also the future of the tribe. Yet one quiet mystery had remained untouched for many years. Near the edge of the village lived a woman known only as the Veiled Widow. Since the death of her husband, she had never allowed anyone to see her face. Every morning she walked through the village wearing a long white veil that covered her from forehead to chin. She helped care for children, gathered herbs for the sick, and prepared food for the elderly, but she always kept her distance. No one spoke openly about her. Some believed grief had broken her spirit. Others whispered that she carried terrible scars from a long-forgotten attack. A few even claimed she hid a secret too painful to reveal. Only Chief Nantan knew the truth. Several miles away, a young cowboy named Caleb worked alone on a small ranch beside a winding river. He was known throughout the frontier as an honest man who never turned away someone in need. A month earlier, he had helped recover several Apache horses stolen by a gang of rustlers. He refused any payment, saying that returning what belonged to others was simply the right thing to do. The chief never forgot that act. On this morning, Caleb rode into the village after receiving an unexpected invitation. He believed the chief wanted to thank him once again for his help. Instead, he found the entire tribe gathered in silence around the council fire. Warriors stood shoulder to shoulder. Elders watched with serious faces. Even the children sensed that something unusual was about to happen. Chief Nantan stepped forward and looked directly at the young cowboy. "You have earned our respect," he said calmly. "But today I must ask something that no outsider has ever been asked before." Caleb listened without speaking. The chief pointed toward the quiet woman standing beneath the shade of a tree, her face hidden behind the familiar white veil. "If you wish to remain a trusted friend of this tribe," the chief declared, "you must marry the veiled widow before the sun sets. If you refuse, you must leave this land and never return." A wave of shock swept through the gathering. Every warrior turned to Caleb, waiting for him to refuse. The cowboy looked at the silent woman, then back at the chief. What he said next left the entire village speechless. The silence seemed to last forever. Every warrior watched Caleb, expecting him to refuse the chief's demand. Some folded their arms with quiet confidence, while others exchanged knowing smiles. No outsider would willingly marry a woman whose face no one had seen for years. Caleb looked at the chief, then at the veiled widow. She stood quietly beneath the tree with her hands folded, never lifting her eyes from the ground. Finally, the cowboy spoke. "If this is her choice as well, I will accept." A murmur spread through the crowd. The warriors could not believe what they had heard. The elders remained silent, carefully studying the young cowboy's face. Chief Nantan nodded once before turning to the widow. "The choice is also yours." For the first time, she raised her head. Though her face remained hidden, her voice was calm and gentle. "You know nothing about me," she said. "You have heard only the stories. Many men have judged me without ever speaking to me. You still have time to walk away." Caleb shook his head. "I have learned that stories are not always true. A person's heart matters more than rumors." The widow stood quietly for a moment before asking one more question. "What if the truth disappoints you?" Caleb smiled softly. "Then I will face the truth with respect, because everyone deserves to be treated with kindness." For the first time in many years, the widow felt hope. Though no one could see her face, a small smile appeared beneath the veil. From across the village, Chief Nantan watched every word. He said nothing, but deep inside, he realized the cowboy had already passed a test that no warrior before him had been willing to face. As the sun slowly moved across the sky, preparations for the evening ceremony began. No one knew that before the wedding could take place, danger was already riding toward the village. As the sun dipped behind the mountains, the village gathered for the wedding ceremony. The elders stood beside the council fire while families formed a quiet circle around Caleb and the veiled widow. The air was still, and every face reflected curiosity. Just as Chief Nantan began to speak, the sound of galloping horses echoed across the valley. A band of outlaws rushed toward the village, hoping to steal horses and supplies before nightfall. The warriors reached for their weapons, and the peaceful ceremony turned into chaos. Without hesitation, Caleb mounted his horse and rode beside the Apache warriors. Together they drove the attackers away from the homes and protected the frightened families. During the struggle, one outlaw slipped behind the crowd and charged toward the veiled widow. Before anyone could react, Caleb stepped in front of her. He blocked the attack, but the force of the struggle caused the widow's veil to fall to the ground. The entire village froze. For years, everyone had expected to see a face hidden by fear or shame. Instead, they saw a kind woman with gentle eyes and a small scar across one cheek. It was the only mark left from the day she had saved several children during a raid many years earlier, the same day her husband had lost his life protecting the village. The whispers that had followed her for years disappeared in an instant. The widow slowly bent down to pick up the veil, but Caleb gently placed his hand over it. "You have nothing to hide," he said quietly. Tears filled her eyes as she looked around the circle. For the first time in many years, no one looked at her with fear. They looked at her with respect. And Chief Nantan knew the moment he had waited for had finally arrived. When the last of the outlaws had disappeared into the darkness, the village slowly gathered around the council fire once again. The fear had passed, but the silence remained. Every eye was fixed on Chief Nantan. The old chief stepped forward and looked first at the widow, then at Caleb. "For many years," he began, "my people believed this woman hid her face because she carried shame. The truth is far different." He turned toward the tribe. "She covered her face because she grew tired of being judged by rumors instead of truth. The small scar on her cheek was earned while saving the lives of our children during the attack that took her husband's life. She has always carried courage, but too few people chose to see it." The chief paused before facing Caleb. This marriage was never meant to be a punishment. It was a test of character. The warriors lowered their heads. "I wanted to find one man who would look beyond stories and appearances. Many brave warriors refused without ever speaking to her. You accepted because you saw her as a person, not as a rumor." Chief Nantan placed his hand on Caleb's shoulder. "Today, you have earned more than my respect. You have earned a place in this tribe as family." The widow slowly removed the veil from her hands and folded it carefully. She looked at Caleb with a peaceful smile. For the first time since losing her husband, she felt truly seen. The following morning, the village welcomed a new day with songs, laughter, and the warmth of many smiling faces. The fear and uncertainty that had filled the air only hours before had disappeared. In their place stood hope. The wedding ceremony began once again beneath the clear morning sky. This time, the veiled widow walked beside Caleb without covering her face. As she passed through the village, the people greeted her with smiles instead of whispers. The children she had once saved ran to embrace her, reminding everyone of the courage she had carried for so many years. Chief Nantan stood proudly before the gathering and blessed the marriage. He thanked Caleb for teaching the tribe that true honor comes from seeing the goodness within a person instead of believing rumors. He also thanked the widow for finding the strength to trust again after years of loneliness and sorrow. As the celebration continued, Apache families and nearby ranchers shared food, music, and stories around a great fire. Friendships grew where fear had once divided people. In the years that followed, Caleb and his wife built a peaceful home near the edge of the village. Their door was always open to travelers, neighbors, and anyone seeking help. Together they became known for their generosity, wisdom, and compassion. The old white veil was carefully folded and placed inside a wooden chest, never to be worn again. It remained there as a reminder that fear and rumors can hide the truth, but kindness and understanding have the power to reveal it. And across the frontier, People would remember the cowboy who chose trust over fear, and in doing so, changed 2 lives and united an entire community. Thank you for watching this heartfelt journey through the Old West. This story reminds us that the greatest strength is not found in appearance, reputation, or fear, but in kindness, trust, and the courage to see the good in others. One simple choice changed 2 lives and brought an entire community together. If you enjoyed this story, please like the video and subscribe for more original Western frontier stories filled with courage, honor, unexpected friendships, and unforgettable moments. Tell us in the comments, if you were in the cowboy's place, would you have accepted the chief's challenge without knowing who was behind the veil? Share this story with your friends and family, and help spread the message that compassion and understanding can change lives. Thank you for being part of our community. We'll see you in the next Western Frontier adventure.